Hello, my name is Adolfo Moya González. We are at the second module dealing with field production and quality, and on this first presentation we are going to deal with the very beginning of the field production, that is the orchard establishment. At the orchard establishment, some relevant decisions should be made. First of all, the site selection and soil preparation, and the variety and rootstock selection. The site selection and soil preparation will affect the drainage, that is the most important parameter on the life of a fruit tree, and the orientation that will affect it will be a relevant factor affecting the phenology of the crop, and the variety and rootstock selection that will define the quality characteristics of the fruits obtained. Regarding site selection and soil preparation, the ideal site for an orchard establishment is on rolling or elevated land so that cold air can drain during spring frosts. In the scheme that we can see on the screen, there are several locations. Location A is warm and sunny and is south-oriented, and so it's an ideal location for the establishment of the orchard. Location B is too exposed to the prevailing winds, and so it can be exposed to frost. Location C is also possible, but is colder than A, as it's north-oriented. Location D is the most susceptible to spring frost, because cold air drains into it from elevated areas. Location E can still be frosty, but the woods act as a windbreak, sheltering this site from prevailing winds. Site F is not desirable because of the dense wood at the base of the hill that can trap and prevent it from draining the cold air to lower dry lying areas. And Site G is too exposed, as well as Site B. Talking about fruit tree propagation, it's important to say that it can be vegetative, that means non-sexually, or sexually. On vegetative propagation, that is usually the most used, the descendants are genetically identical to the original trees. And in this case, is done by grafting or budding a desired variety onto a suitable rootstock. In the case of sexual reproduction, where the flowers of one tree are pollinated with the flowers of the same or other tree, and new fruits are obtained, the new trees growing from the seeds produced by those fruits will be genetically heterogeneous, and so it will lead to random properties of the fruit. That makes sexual reproduction an unsuitable method for fruit tree propagation. The most common method of propagating fruit trees, suitable for nearly all species, is grafting onto rootstocks. This, in essence, involves physically joining part of a shoot of a hybrid cultivar onto the roots of a different but closely related species or cultivar, so that the two parts grow together as one plant. In this slide we can see the several operations to make a grafting. In this case, it's a wipe and turn grafting. The first operation will be make a sloping cut in the rootstock with a slit pointing upwards. The second operation will be cutting this scion wood with a tongue pointing downwards. Then the scion is inserted on the slit. The two pieces are joined together by a knot, and then they are covered for promoting the tissue formation and the finishing of the grafting. The selection of variety and rootstock, it's important, as the variety mostly defines the fruit properties, while the rootstock is especially relevant in adaptation to environment, hardiness, and vigor of the plant. For rootstock selection, several factors are considered, most of them regarding to soil and weather conditions that the plant should afford. We could find specific rootstock adapt to low drainage soils, salinity, drought conditions, etc. Rootstock will also have minor effect on phenology of the tree. The phenology is the periodicity of plant cycle events, and it is influenced by seasonal and interannual variations in climate as well as habitat factors such as elevation. In this slide we can see a grafted vine with the scion grape variety visible as the darker wood above, the graft union, and the rootstock, that is the variety, below. The case of the vine is a especially paradigmatic case, as almost all the vines cultivated in Europe are grafted with American vine species. The American vine species have evolved to develop several natural defenses against phylloxera. Currently, there is no cure for phylloxera, and unlike other grape diseases, there is no chemical control or response. The only successful means of controlling phylloxera has been the grafting of phylloxera-resistant American rootstock, usually hybrid varieties created from the Vitis berlandieri and Vitis riparia and Vitis rupestris species to more susceptible European vinifera vines. The variety selection is relevant as it affects the phenology. In this slide we can see the fruit development over a 7.5-month period from early winter to midsummer. The first image on the top left shows the new growth of the plant in early winter. On its upright, we can see the flower buds clearly form and the leaves that start to develop. This picture was taken on early spring. On the third image on the middle left, we can see the flowers fully develop that will be pollinated by wind or insects in the early springs. In the fourth image on the middle right, we can find that if successfully pollinated, the flowers die back and incipient fruit can be observed. The leaves have a quick growth to provide the tree with food and energy from the photosynthesis. This occurs during the mid-spring. On the fifth image, down left, we can see that the fruit is well developed and continues its growing. And on the last image, we can see the fruit fully ripened and to an edible form to encourage spreading of seed contained within by animals. This occurs in the midsummer. Phenology is especially relevant as it defines the phases when the tree is more susceptible by frost damage, and the early and the spring frost could affect the flowering of the plant and reduce the final production in a relevant way. The variety selection is also important as it determines lots of properties of the fruit. Each variety will be associated with a specific color, shape, size, sugar content, firmness, nutrient content, etc. All those properties will determine the use of the fruit and will be used for defining the quality characteristics of the specific variety, while field production techniques and further management of the fruit will cause variation of these quality properties. As a summary, we must say that site selection is a relevant factor for the future production of fruit, as microclimatic conditions will affect phenology and thus both production and quality. The variety selected is the most relevant factor on determining the quality properties of the fruit. Nevertheless, rootstock selection will enable the cultivation on different soils and also will have an effect on quality properties of the fruit. Thank you for attending this presentation. The next presentation will deal about field operations.